So we're doing a recon and recap of stage 2 of Race the World's the Loch Loop. This was a nice, spicy race through and through. If you race stage 1, you are definitely going to recognize some features in this race. Overall, the Loch Loop is 8 kilometers per lap. It's 16.1 kilometers for the entire race, and you're looking at 71 meters per lap or 142 meters of climbing overall. So if you guys can do me a huge favor and subscribe to the channel, it helps us get these videos out, lets me know that you like them, and it also helps them get in front of more eyes. The vast majority of people who watch this channel are not subscribed, so if you could do that little favor for me and smash that like button, it would be greatly appreciated. So like most Zwift races, we go out fairly fast, but that's okay because the vast majority of the first part of this race is pretty much downhill. So there's lots of little dips. There are a couple little bumps that you will come into contact along the way. And much like last week, it's just going to be a matter of sitting in the pack here. Nobody's really going to do anything crazy. We're going to go through the rollers. If there are some stronger riders, they might push ahead, but generally the group is going to track them down. So if you're a bigger guy like me, or in fact, if you're just any kind of rider, you're probably just going to want to stick with the pack at this point. There is absolutely no point in breaking away. It's going to get tracked down. You can see a couple guys that kind of get ahead, but then they get pulled back in. And this pattern is going to continue. Again, some bigger riders will jut ahead on the downhills, but they will get sucked right back in as we go through the rollers. And then at 4.4, when you see the banners, this is when we start going up. And if you raced last week in the Highlands, this point will be very familiar. If you remember last week, I took off here and started putting in a good power effort. I knew that I was going to have a lot of trouble in that race, and I kind of wanted to give things a go at the very beginning. This time, different strategy. You can see right now that I am just sitting in the pack. Maybe I learned a lesson from last week. Maybe I didn't, but I just ultimately want to stick with the main group, conserve my power. The power up here is, of course, the draft. You see some guys using the draft boost here. As it gets to the higher percentages, so you start seeing 4, 5, 7%, probably not the best place. I would wait until you pass around the corner here. You can see the barrier where you're going to get a new boost and drop it at that point. So you're just going to sit in there nicely. You've done your effort. You're going to have a good time to recover. Everybody's going to slow down. I think that's the best time to kind of pop that power up. And you can see the powers come right down. Nobody's jutting off the front. Nobody's attacking. Everybody's just kind of waiting, and we're going to hit this downhill and keep on going. So take this time to get a little bit of recovery in as you come downhill, because at the 5.8 kilometer mark, that's when you start heading back uphill. You can see there's a nice kicker here. It gets up to 7% and you feel it. There's a little bit of a push. Again, you just kind of want to keep on people and stay with the group as best as possible. This is a very short effort. It levels out pretty quick, but don't get me wrong, it does sting, and you can see some of the more powerful riders are going to pull ahead, and the group is getting a little bit strung out. So you can see I'm pushing on the power here. I'm hurting a bit, but I want to stay with that main group, like I said, as long as possible, benefit from the draft. We're coming to the downhill of the corkscrew, and I'm going to get a little bit of recovery in here. But it's a good chance if you're a stronger rider, this is maybe where you can start making your break as we dip in towards the tunnel. But people are going to be working hard to chase you back down. You can still see that I'm doing about 4 watts per kilogram coming into the downhill. Trying to get back on the end, a little bit more effort there. I'm reattached, so that's good. And now as we go up this little incline here, I'm back into recovery mode. This little incline here is really kind of short. It'll end pretty quick, and you can see I almost pop off the front of the group, but it's back to recovery time. So I'm just going to keep my position here. Again, this is the first lap, so we're not seeing anybody do anything crazy, but on the last lap, there are people that are definitely going to be pushing at this point as we go again. We start doing a little bit of a climb, but again, I'm just trying to recover. You can see I've dropped my watts a fair bit, just kind of watching, and as people maybe put in a little bit more effort, I start cranking things up as well. Again, you see people deploying the draft on here. I don't think that is the best place to do it. Yes, you can get a little bit of draft on the lower percentage 3, 2, but I think ultimately at the end of the day, you're going to want to save those where you really kind of need them for recovery. So we're going to speed things up as we cross the line there and head into lap 2. So I spend most of this time during this whole sped up thing kind of recovering, sitting in, doing as little power. You can see sometimes I'm dropping down to 150, not even that. And then sometimes there's a little bit of a push, so you got to kind of catch on. Again, just playing that game of trying to conserve as much energy. Then we hit the signs, it makes that turn, and it starts going up again. And this is where the fireworks in the race, much like last week, are going to start. So you're going to start to see people maybe pushing the package a little bit here. Not as aggressively as it was last week for me, but you can see the power's going up. Nobody's really sprinting off the front. Everybody knows there is a ways to go and that there is another climb, but you do see some people trying to string things up. There looks to be a little bit of a break. I personally am not going to chase that because I don't think it's going to work out, and I don't necessarily have the power to latch on. So I'm just going to select this group of guys. I'm going to sit in, get as much recovery as I can. You see, I even have to put in a little bit of a dig here. We're almost at 6 watts a kilogram as guys, again, are deploying the draft as we get to the top. Again, for me, I would drop it a little bit later than that just so I can carry it through the sign as it eases off. I know people are going to recover here, and I'm going to get the best recovery possible going through and doing that. You can see I've deployed my draft, and I'm just going to sit in here. Those guys have gone a bit ahead. That was a bit worrisome. I thought maybe these guys are actually going to break away and get away. And to be honest, you can't even see them on the screen anymore. They have managed to kind of get away and get out of sight, which I'm not planning on chasing again because I don't feel I have the power numbers yet in Cat C to do it. So I'm going to leave that to everybody else. These guys start picking up the pace a bit. That's okay. I'm going to sit in the draft and let things work out and let the chips fall where they may. But if you're competitive in your division and this happens, you're going to probably want to chase them down or go away. You can see them going up the hill. As we start coming, we're starting to push. We can see them in our sights. And again, there's a little bit of a dig here. It's up to 8%. It's going to take some work. We're at 7 watts a kilogram. It's really cutting into me now, and I am really starting to feel the burn as we've got 2 kilometers left. I'm just trying to sit in and work with the group as best as possible, keep my position for as long as possible, and save as much energy and hopefully getting a sprint at the end. So we continue to chase. We lose sight of those guys. Nobody's really pushing it until this guy decides, I've had enough of you guys. You're going way too slow. I'm just going to bridge. Forget you all. And you start to see people pop in the drafts. Again, I don't think this is the best place for it necessarily. You've got 1.3 kilometers, and we can see them up ahead as this guy is starting to bridge, and that ignites a fire in everybody. The guy that launched off, he manages to cross, and he's attached, but the group is actually pushing a little bit here, which is good, and that gap is slowly getting closed down. And ultimately, we're going to absorb that first guy that tried to reconnect on the group here. He gets pulled in, and we see Yoder going off early, trying to pull it. Now, I know some people have jutted off at this time at 800 meters to go, 0.8 kilometers. You will see some guys potentially launch an attack here from a long way out. That is going to be a hard effort. In the case of this group, things are fairly slow. They're consistently, they can see Yoder there. They are tracking him down. 0.7 kilometers. He's still got a little bit of a gap, though. I mean, if he goes on the gas here, he could potentially still pull away, but the bunch is tracking him down and he gets sucked up. So he obviously went way too early, and he's got his draft going, and everybody in the group caught up. We got about 0.5 kilometers. So now it's getting time ready for the sprint. We've got this last little booter here. Probably a good time to go if you've got the power, which I don't particularly have. We're going to go across this bridge again in nice formation. I have popped the draft mainly because not I wanted to do it here, but just felt that I was losing it. I didn't have much left to give, and I didn't think I was going to have that much of a sprint. And you can see it starts winding up. We start going. I start pushing things. We've got 200 meters to go, and it's off to the races. And ultimately, some guys with some great power at the end here for the sprint finish. I just put my head down, keep going as hard as I can, trying to keep as many places. I end up crossing the line, 13th place. Not a bad result if you've watched my last couple races. Usually I'm 20 plus. And then if we zip over to Zip Power, we can see after some DQs as well as some people that weren't wearing heart rate monitors that actually jumps me to 8th place in the race. So great fun ride. I'm completely spent. My head's hanging low. I am just completely done. If you want to watch the whole full race replay and how that sort of played out, you can absolutely do that. Thanks to everybody that was in the live stream to help cheer us on. Looking forward to racing with those guys next week. And as always, remember, like, comment, subscribe, hit that bell button so you get notifications. And until next time, see ya.